So we are recording. So this is Nursing 310 overview, and myself, Sheila Mady, along with Dr. Lois Hine, we are joining forces together to present a quick overview of 310 nutrition. And I see we have in attendance Catalina Perdomo, correct?
Yes.
Delita
Yes.
Moran
Yeah, I'm still here.
and Jamie Prowett. Can you hear us, Jamie?
And Josh.
And Josh. Awesome. I don't see where you are on my list. You must be on the phone.
Ooh, perfect. Take me off all your list.
You
Yeah.
are on the top of the list, Josh. Come on. All right, so
I don't have to do nutrition.
are you supposed to be here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a quick overview. We have an hour. It may take us not as long, but at any time, just a little housekeeping rules. At any time that we are talking about something and you need to butt in, just go ahead and butt in. I may not see on the attendance sheet that you're raising your hand or anything like that, so please feel free just to ask questions as we go along. But what we're going to do, Dr. Lois Hine and myself, we're going to go over the course syllabus. We're going to look at the two major assignments in this course, and the whole time we are hopefully going to be asking questions and answering questions, and any concerns that you guys may have, any questions you have, please feel free to ask them.
We can't hear you.
You can't?
Oh, there you are.
Okay.
We lost you. You weren't.
You lost me. My computer audio says it could be a little better. Can you still hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
You might have to call in on the phone, Sheila, because you're cutting out on us.
Okay, let me see what I can do here. Just 1 minute, Lois.
My syllabus, but trust me, they're meaningless. You can call me anytime. Text me if you want to, and I can get a hold of you. If you're working on an assignment on the weekend and you need a question answered, call me. It's better than just shooting me an email, because then you might not get your answer fast enough. Otherwise, if you put something in questions to the instructor, I'll get back to you 24 hours, up to 48 on the weekend, or like I said, just give me a call or text me.
Okay. All right. So regarding the course syllabus, each course syllabus has our email on it, and then it has the course descriptions, it has credit hours, it also has the overall course learning outcomes that are tagged along to the program outcomes. And then as you move down, the textbook would be your APA manual that you all should have received in 125. Everybody have their APA manual or know of its whereabouts?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And then you have your DUDEC 2018, your Nutrition Essentials for Nursing Practice, 8th edition. Now, I noticed some of my students were having problems getting their E-codes to work. So I'm hoping at this point in time, when we're more than halfway through week 1, that everybody has access to their book, their textbook. Anybody online, any of you online or in the meeting does not have access to your textbook?
No, I have access.
Okay. Everybody else okay?
Yep.
Okay. Next, we have your library resources on how to access the LIRN, and then also how to access Ovid. And then we have your IT support through Kaplan, through Canvas, and then your Eaglegate Provo College technical support number. So if you have technical support, I would ask that you reach out to, if it's Canvas, reach out to Canvas. If it's college, reach out to the college IT. General policies, we'll talk about ethical behavior. Now, something new that we implemented last semester or in September is plagiarism, the 80-20 rule. So most of you, if not all of you, have already seen this and probably have already been witness to it within your assignments and or your discussion grading rubrics. Any questions with the 80-20 rule for those of you in attendance?
No.
Okay. So what we're trying to do is we want to read your work, which means, we need to less the amount of quoted material that we are using. We want you to read it. We want you to synthesize it, put it into your own words, but then of course, you always have to cite where you got this information. So make sure that you look at that when you're on your discussion rubrics and when you're doing your assignments. Next, we talk about professionalism, late work. So assignments are granted late work for every day that you're late up to Wednesday. It is deducted 10%. So an example would be an assignments are usually due by 11:59 on Sunday. If you turn it in at 12 or 12:01, it's a day late, so that's 10% off. So make sure that when you're working on those deadlines that you really look at the time frame. Day one is 10% off. Tuesday would be 20%, and then Wednesday would be 30%. And after Wednesday, we cannot accept an assignment. Any questions with that?
No.
No.
Discussions are due Sunday by the overall discussion. The initial response, of course, are due by 11:59 on Wednesday, but the overall peer responses are due by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. We cannot accept late discussions. We cannot accept late quizzes. So plan your time wisely to make sure and get those things done in a timely fashion. Let's see. Attendance and participation shouldn't be anything new to everybody. We take attendance Thursday morning. Well, we put attendance in Thursday morning for your participation on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And then on Monday, we look at your attendance for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you need to be active at least 2 days a week. Any questions with attendance participation?
No.
Okay.
No.
Now, I know for those students in my sections, I sent out a quick reminder this morning after I put attendance in about our attendance policy, so you can always refer to that email or refer back to your syllabus. It's also in your announcement section. Talk about civility, incivility, use etiquette when you're addressing. One thing that I really like is when you are in the discussion threads and you are responding to a peer or even responding to myself. Please call us by name. So it just kind of adds more of an individualized respect. So for instance, if Jamie is responding to Chantel, she would say, Chantel, I agree with your posts, and then elaborate on that agreement and add to that discussion with critical thinking. So that's one good thing that we need to get in a habit about. So we address each other by names. Any questions there?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
And then further down, we have your grading criteria. You have to receive at least a 77% in this course to pass. Further down, we have points distribution. So for discussions, week 1 through 8, we have points, 375 points. Quizzes are in weeks 1 through 7, and they are 40 points apiece, and they are worth 280 points. And then your major 2 assignments that we're going to look into here shortly, your holistic nutritional assessment is due in week 5. That's worth 200 points or 20% of your grade. And then your next assignment is due in week 7. The nutritional health plan is worth 145 points or 14.5%. So even though you have 2 major assignments due later on in the course, I would recommend starting those now by seeking out research, or as we progress on with your holistic nutritional assessment, seeking out a patient. So total points are 1,000. And then further down, you have your requirements for the discussion grading rubric. Should be no questions with that. It's nothing new. And then you have your course outline as well. And I know that I'm scrolling fast, so please don't get nauseous. I apologize for that. Any
One
questions?
question I did have for
Yes.
you.
Hi, Josh.
On the discussions,
Yes.
it's a little late, but do we have to respond to you? And if we do respond to you on one of our posts, does it count as our 2 responses?
Yes. You do not have to respond to me. I try to give you a question to increase your critical thinking. If you do respond to me, that counts as a peer response. So,
Got it.
yep.
Thanks.
Thank you for that question. Anybody else?
No.
So since we're on that topic of discussion, make sure that you get your initial response in by Wednesday at 11:59. And then the rest of the week, make sure you get at least 2 peer responses in between Thursday and Sunday. Now, some students like to do them all in one day, which I'm not saying anything wrong with that, but we want you to be active at least 2 days a week. So what that means is you'll have to get in at least one other time during the week and respond to a peer. So I don't know how you guys do it now with your calendars, but if you just want to make sure that at least on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday that you respond to your initial discussion, and then come back in at least once on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday and respond to at least 2 of your peers. Okay, those are the main things. Now, if for some reason, you get too busy with work or just too busy with life in general, if the only day that you can respond would be on Sunday, you'll get your points for 2 peer responses, but you will be late on your initial response, which would be a 5-point deduction. And then you would also get nope, that would just be it. Right, Dr. Hine? 5 points for posting on one day and then with your late responses. So, all right. So I'm going to scroll up really quick. Sorry for the nausea. So of course we are on the home tab right now. Next, let's look at the announcement tab. This is a very important tab because this is where we as instructors will post important information. So I usually ask students to look at least once a day here. So if you notice my specific announcement section, I introduce myself to you. I introduce you to nutrition, and then each week we will introduce you to each week. I also put an attendance reminder here, and then I also put your course conference and how you can join us. And so starting tomorrow afternoon, you'll notice where I introduce you to week 2. And so they are always a couple days before the actual week starts. So I would just ask that you look at your announcement section. This is very important. Anything that comes along the way, I will add an announcement. A lot of times I also will email you. So that also will help. Anything from you, Dr. Hine?
That's good. And of course we We might put videos in about the assignments or
Mm-hmm.
conferences coming up about the assignments. So
Mm-hmm.
I would, if you're going to open up your computer to the class, I would move from the home page to the announcements just to check in each time.
Great. Thank you for that.
Are you going to talk about quizzes at all?
I am. Mm-hmm.
Okay, because
Okay.
I always worry about the fact that if you just go to the quiz tab, you're going to miss a couple quizzes.
Yep. Yep. The chat section, this is where, if you want, some students like to have a chat with me online. If that's the case, I don't have a problem with that. We can do it this way, or you can just pick up the phone and call me, and we can talk over the phone as well. Pretty flexible with time frames. I work well with students to make sure that I can that I'm accessible for their needs. Now, come 3 or 4 in the morning, that might be a difficult process for me. But I tell students, if something's going on and you just can't sleep because of something, or you're in the middle of a paper, text me. If I respond back, that means I'm up. But if I don't respond back, I definitely will respond first thing in the morning. I do work late into the mornings. A lot of times you'll notice my grading is done then. That's just how my household works. Um, being aged, I don't need as much sleep now, I'm finding. So if you want to text me, feel free to text me. If I don't respond back, that just means that I will definitely respond back as soon as I wake. So don't ever feel like you can't reach out via text. I'm available most of the time. Conferences. This is where sometimes we schedule a conference in this venue. And if there's a conference, it'll be under new conferences, and then there's a link that you click on, and then we can have a conference. Now, the reason why we're doing it using the GoToMeeting is because I can share my screen and I can record it, and I can download it, and you can have it for the next 8 weeks. The conference recordings only last 2 weeks. So the time that I have used this vehicle for information dissemination would be when we have like your Module 5 assignment coming up, and I've had a lot of questions posed to me about it. I might set up a quick conference to go over that assignment again. But for the most part, I enjoy the GoToMeetings. There's just a little more opportunity for technology use. The next tab would be your discussions. And so here is where, there we go. Here is where you can ask questions to the instructor. We utilize this area here because if you have a question, you're probably not the only one that has that question. And so if you ask it here, then other students can see your question and see my answer. So I would ask that if it's an overall general question about an assignment or a course discussion question or something to that, I would ask it here. Now, if it's individualized and personal for you, please ask me. Please reach out and we can have a one-on-one. Eagle Gate Cafe is where most of you have already introduced yourselves in this course. If you have not gone in and introduced yourself, I would ask that you do, even though a lot of you guys know each other and have been in courses together. For the faculty, you're really introducing yourself to the faculty, and then they can introduce themselves to you. And then each week we have 2 different discussion questions that you'll see pinned up here. And we've already gone over the requirements for discussion. And then as we move down the page, we'll talk about scholarly resources and etc. So any questions about so far what you've seen?
Nope.
No.
Okay. My background noise okay?
Yes.
My husband is talking very loudly to my son in the kitchen, so I apologize for that. Next would be grades, and this is where you can look at your grades. I know most of the online faculty, we pride ourselves in giving proper and timely feedback and a very in-depth feedback as well. So I would just ask that if any time you receive feedback that you don't understand, please reach out to your specific instructor.
Okay.
Okay. Modules, let's click on modules, and this is where you will see, this is a very important tab as well. So under the student orientation module, just in case you had to take a hiatus or you need a new Canvas orientation, click on this link and it'll take you to a quick orientation. Some helpful Canvas videos under this tab. Course tools, again, here is the questions to the instructor tab. The next thing I really want to hone in on would be your APA template and sample paper. So when you click that, you'll notice where we give you a sample paper.
Thanks.
I wasn't my 8 dogs.
Nope, that was my 2 chihuahuas. My little rescue dog. She has to be very protective of her mama. So here you'll see where we have a sample paper. So let me click on that sample paper for you, because this is very important, and this is a great resource that you guys are offered. And it has, I'm trying to widen my screen. And so this is a sample paper, and I'm not sure how many of you have actually read this paper, but each paragraph has some great information regarding requirements of APA. And so the first page would be your title page, and I'll make sure that your title page looks like this example. And then page 2 talks about, your paragraph is an introduction to the paper, things like that. So each paragraph has great information throughout. So I would just ask that your paper look like this, and you are golden. I don't know how much more I want to dive into this, because this is a 300 level class, and I'm sure you're okay with APA formatting. But if any time you have questions, please reach out. So this would be the sample paper. We also have a template that students like to download and use. And what they've done is they have actually utilized this template and so if you click on it here, you can change your running head right here, and you can make it, whatever running head you want, which is usually an abbreviated format of your actual title. And then you save it as. And so this is where you can continue to utilize this template. Put your own name in there, put your own campus in there, and then go ahead and, of course, you're going to get rid of everything here and put your own information in. Okay. So this is a great template, and I'm not going to save that. And then also we have some full-length videos on APA and a condensed APA. So there's really no reason you should not be successful in your APA formatting. And that's about as in depth as I'm going to go into APA. Anybody else have any questions?
Nope.
No.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Okay. And then I'm going to go back to modules, and I'm going to dive into week 1. So under each week, you'll notice that you have tabs, and I would just ask that you click on each tab to find out what the objectives are for week 1, the checklist. So let me pull this up. So here we've got, okay, this is what's due for this week. Your introduction. We want you to read your objectives. We want you to read your lecture. We want you to complete the reading assignment, and then post your first discussion. by Wednesday, and then post at least 2 more times by Sunday. And then, of course, guiding you into the questions to the instructor. Oh, I've got a quiz due this week. That's great to know, right? So then I'll show you how to access that quiz. Then we go into more in depth with the course outcomes again, which tie into your overall program outcomes. So if you're ever questioning why you're doing what you're doing, every assignment and every activity ties back to learning outcomes. Okay, so let's go back to modules real quick. And I'm just going to look at week 1 just because each week you'll want to look at your each tab. So module 1 PDF. This is something that we would click on and then it would download here. And this is just a resource on nutritive value of foods. Okay. Next, I'm going to go to modules here. So lecture, this is where you can find your lectures. It talks about, okay, what is my reading assignment? Well, I've got chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then dive into the lecture. And we provide you, like this right here, certain pages within your textbook that you can utilize. And when we do those, that means it's probably pretty important, might be able to help you with your discussion question answers. Okay. Then we have more information here. We do have live links within your lecture, so please click on them, watch different video clips, and then as we dive into more, sorry if this is making you nauseous, and then at the very end, we have great information within the lecture, and then we also give you references. Now, sometimes I tell students, sometimes we give you great articles within references, and so if you're having trouble finding an article that might help you answer a discussion question, look at the lecture, the references at the bottom, because a lot of times you can utilize some of those articles we've given you. You find them within the LIRN or Ovid, and you can utilize those for your discussion as a scholarly resource. So use your resources wisely. Don't reinvent the wheel. Also, again, use your textbook. We really like to integrate that textbook reading into your discussions. And you know that that's a scholarly resource right there. So if you want to always use that, that would be fantastic. I know some students like to find articles. What I don't want to happen is for you to always use Google and bring up websites or resources that are not scholarly. And I know that I've noticed this within the week 1, and so I wanted to discuss it a little further within our course overview, that when you are looking at a web page, which offers a lot of information, if you notice that it is not scholarly, like if there are advertisements popping up, that is not a scholarly article. It has to be peer reviewed, which makes it scholarly. And I would just ask that you dive into the LIRN or the Ovid and find an article that supports your discussion and your passion, and utilize that to support your discussion or your paper. I'm always willing to have a one-on-one to help students dive into the uncomfortable environment of the LIRN at times. Students shy away from it. My experience, it's easy to use. It's very valuable. It's a resource that we offer you, and so if you want to have a one-on-one, please reach out, and I am very willing to have a one-on-one to dive more into finding a scholarly resource. And if we have time at the end of this recording, I had planned on pulling up an article to kind of help you. So those are with the lectures. So let's move on, because I know I tend to ramble a little bit. So here's where you can find your Eagle Gate Cafe, where you introduce yourself. And then here's discussion 1 with the due date, discussion 2 with the due date. So even though the due date is November 4th, your initial response is due by Wednesday, which was the 31st at 11:59 p.m. Okay, everybody here?
Yes.
Okay. Here we have a quiz. So you're going to click on this and it'll bring you up to your quiz. Okay. Now before Dr. Hine wanted me to talk about quizzes because some quizzes are crossword puzzles. But if you were just to click on quizzes, I want to show you this tab. These are the quizzes that are embedded into Canvas, week 1, 3, 4, 6, and 7. So we're missing 2 and 5, correct? So this is where these are the main quizzes that are in Canvas, but there's also 2 crossword puzzles, and you will not find those just in the quizzes tab. So I would just ask you to always use your modules tab just to make sure that you're not forgetting something. So if we were to look at week 2, right here is your module 2 quiz. And that is a different tab because it takes you to a crossword puzzle. Okay? So if you're utilizing just your quizzes tab, you're going to miss weeks 2 and 5, I believe. Okay? So here's your modules here. I think they pretty well look the same. We've got our checklists, our lecture, quizzes. So let's dive into week 5 and talk about the first main assignment, which is due December 2nd. I know that seems like it's quite a ways off, but it actually is not. It goes by very fast. And I would ask that you start looking at your assignments now so you can plan appropriately. So let's look at assignment documents. When you click on here, you will see 3 different links. This would be your table. So let's click on this one. And I know I sent out an email that a student in one of my sections had said, hey, we are all in clinical. And so we have a assignment coming up in week 5 where we have to find a student to assess or a patient to assess or someone to assess. And this student reached out and said, why don't we utilize one of our patients that we're having in clinical, which is a great opportunity if you start early. And so this is the holistic nutritional assessment, and it is a table that you will fill in. There is no paper. It is a table that you fill in, and it has to be very specific. So the first table, the first blank would be your assessment findings. So over here, we're talking about age and growth and development stage. So how old is your patient? What is their growth and development stage? Put it right here. But then the second box would be interpretation of data. So this is where your critical thinking is very crucial. This is where you will say, well, according to their age, I would be concerned with this. Or according to their growth and development stage, I would be concerned with this. This has to be very, very detailed. This section of the interpretation data is where you will utilize resources to support your writings. And then as we continue on, you're going to put the patient's height, weight, BMI, and recent weight changes in here in your assessment findings. But what does that mean to you? Are they overweight? If they are overweight, what does that mean to you? I just don't want you to put, well, they're overweight. Well, how can I assess that you know what you're talking about? And so the interpretation area is a very important area for you to not leave blank.
I'd just like to say that even if they want to work ahead, they've got to make sure that they're reading their textbook, because the interpretation information is going to come from what they're learning in the class and the lectures and the textbook. So that's why, like this week, we're studying BMI and weight changes, things like that. You need to utilize those resources to put the interpretive data in there.
Correct. Yep. So under biochemical and medications, list any lab work that they might have had, list any medications, even including the over-the-counter medications. So you can list them here, but over here in the interpretation data, what does this mean to you? So this is where you're going to utilize your textbook, you're going to utilize your lecture information, you're going to utilize outside scholarly resources to help you figure out what does it mean when they have a low platelet count, but they're on ginseng. What are those two together? Is that a problem when they're together? And so look at what this means to you. Again, this interpretive section should not be blank. It should be very detailed out. Next would be your clinical dietary data, 24-hour diet recall. But what does that diet mean to you? Is it a normal diet? Is there some teaching that you could do to help them with their diet? Are they eating too much sugar? Are they not eating enough? Are they eating fast food versus maybe a better balanced diet? What does that mean to you? Allergies, if they have no known allergies, I would just make sure that you write that in. And then anybody give me an idea of your interpretation of not having any allergies. What would you write here?
No, unknown.
I'm sorry?
Unknown. Like they don't know. We don't
Well, but
know.
the interpretation area cannot be left blank. So if you were to say they have no known allergies, what could you write in the interpretation section instead of just the word nothing?
Well, like she said, they might not know, so they still need to take care of that and monitor that.
Yep.
Could you open it for me?
Yep. So you would make sure that you would document that instead of just writing the word nothing or leaving blank. Because the interpretation section is when you go in and you assess a patient, you already have a plan of action in mind. You already have your patient figured out, or you think you have your patient figured out. This is the plan I'm going to carry out today. You go in and you meet your patient and it's not what you think. You already had those type of thought process going in to see your patient. I hope that makes sense. And so why is it important that you need to know their allergies? You could say something about that. Okay. Any supplements they may have, any vitamins, minerals, herbs. Why is that important? Patient's concerns about food or nutrition. If you just write, patient is not concerned about food or nutrition. Okay, interpretation wise, what could we put there?
Well, it could be that the patient says they're not concerned, but when you look at their recall, maybe you are concerned about they don't have enough money to purchase the foods. We just don't know. There could be other things going on. And if they say they've got concerns, then of course we can interpret that. But
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
what your
Dr.
data
Thank you.
shows is what they're saying.
Yep. My biggest concern here is do not ever leave anything blank. This is where we understand and can assess your critical thinking, that you're thinking about things all the time. Even though you might have a well person, we have to think of the abnormals along with the normals. And so this is where you can dive into those abnormals here. Who prepares their meals? Any alcohol consumption, economics related to food intake. You just go down the chart and you fill it in, and then you've got all your information, you've got all your interpretive data. Now what are we going to do with that? Well, we're going to devise or create a nutritional outcome or goal. And then we have one goal here. Then we're going to dive in and put some interventions for those goals. Okay. And then you've got a goal 2, along with some interventions there. At least one, more than one. Pluralize the S. There's no set, you're going to need more than one intervention to accomplish a goal. And I hope you guys already know that you need more than one intervention to complete a goal. Okay. And then down here is where you're going to put your scholarly resource, your references. You're going to put them in alphabetical order in APA format. Okay. And hopefully along the way, up here in this interpretive data, we've seen where you have cited some of your scholarly resources. This is the area where you're going to do that, is in the interpretive section. Okay. So this is the main first assignment, which is due Sunday of week 5. So you fill it in, very detailed. Do not leave a lot of white space, I tell students. Do your best. I can be honest with you. In the past, I've seen where they've had assessment data, but they've not filled in any of the interpretive data, and that's all left blank. That's a big concern, because this is how we can assess your critical thinking. Okay. Any questions with the holistic nutritional assessment thus far?
Not right now.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So then what is this next link here? Well, let's look at that. This is also going to help you with your holistic nutritional assessment. This is the actual instructions and the grading rubric. So it tells you how many points it's worth. It tells you choose an individual to assess, utilize the table, perform your history, your physical assessment, things like that. Down here is your grading rubric. And so you want to make sure that you're able to accomplish each of these areas. And so we're looking for the highest point possible. Okay. And so if you forget your, let's say you forget your medication section, well, we really cannot give you points for that. So you would get 0 points out of 10 for that section. All right. If you were not able to provide us with interpretive data, that you wouldn't get full points for that. Okay. So every part of the table is listed in your grading rubric. So I would just ask that you look at your grading rubric as you're filling out your table to make sure that you're accomplishing everything that needs to gain you 10 points or 20 points, or whatever the point section is, like your goal, your outcomes and goals. 15 points. We want you to create 2 outcomes or goals, because there's 2 listed on the table, right? If you only did one of those, then you're not going to get the full 15 points. Okay. Here we want you to include at least 1 intervention for each of your outcomes or goals, but knowing that it takes more than 1 intervention to complete a goal, I would hope that you would have at least 1, if not 2 or 3. But for full points, you just need to have at least 1. Okay. But what I could tell students here is, if you have 1 intervention and it's really not directed at your outcome or goal, you probably won't get your full points. But if you can list 2, 3, or 4 interventions to help with your goal, that would give you more power to gain those full 15 points. Okay. Then we have your formatting down at the bottom. You've got your 80-20 rule, your scholarly resources. They have to be scholarly. Okay. So make sure that you click on both of those links. The first one is the table that you need to download and fill out. The next one would be your instructions and your grading rubric. This one here that talks about, well, what questions can I ask my patient about intake? Well, here's a guide. You can ask these questions. If they really aren't the type of person to give you great detail and you need great detail, here's some questions you can ask them. Okay, print this out, use it, ask your patient these questions. Okay. All right, so there's the main first assignment. So let's go back to modules, and I want to dive into the last assignment, which is week 7. So then week 6, we have discussion questions and a quiz. The end of course survey, I would ask once that link comes out in your announcement section, please utilize the link to complete your survey, because that will give you access to your week 8. All right. Some students do it right away, but some students have reached out in week 8 and say, well, I don't have access to week 8. Well, if you look at week 8, a prerequisite is your end of course survey. So if you do not fill out your survey, you won't have access to week 8, which already is a short week. So you really don't want to put that on yourself to not have access on Monday when you've got to have everything done by Wednesday. So when you see that link in your announcement section, I would make sure that you fill out that survey as soon as you see that link. Okay. So week 7 assignment, this is due December 16th. So you'll click on this link here and it'll tell you what you have to. So let me just increase more. All right, so here, this is where we want to do a nutritional health plan. And it's worth 145 points, and we've given you some areas that we would like to focus on. These are the more chronic areas. So cancers, any type of cancers, cardiovascular disorders, celiac disease, diabetes, HIV, AIDS, kidney disorder. These are the chronic disorders that really need a re-evaluation of a patient's nutritional needs, which is going to be a lifelong change, a lifelong diet change or nutritional change. And then here are your instructions. And so this is an actual paper, all right, 3 to 5 page paper. And what we make sure to tell students is you've got a title page and you've got a reference page. All the meat in between those 2 pages has to be 3 to 5 pages. So your title page and your reference page are not included in that page count. So just make sure that you understand that. Okay. So now we've told you to choose an area of interest. We need you to identify the disease or disorder and summarize the nutritional needs. Then we need you to discuss at least 3 elements of a dietary assessment for your chosen disorder. And then plan 4 nutritional interventions, but these need to include A through D. And then we need you to describe at least 3 expected patient outcomes. And then we need you to support your paper with at least 2 current, which is within the last 5 years, a scholarly resource. And then again, APA formatting. So this is where you could use that template as a guide, that APA template, and then just make sure that your title page looks like the sample and your paper looks like the sample. Now, one thing I tell students here is when you have a paper due and you've got, let's go down to the grading rubric here. So you're being graded on this first section, identify the disease or disorder. That would be, you could utilize that as a level 1 heading. And so each requirement, each assignment criteria that for any type of assignment that you're being graded on, utilize that as a level 1 heading so you don't forget to talk about it, and it makes it easier to grade. Because that as an instructor, we are going to look for, did they identify the disease? Okay. Next would be discuss at least 3 elements of a dietary assessment. This would be your next level 1 heading. Did you discuss 3? Or did you discuss 1? Did you discuss 2? In order to get full points, you have to describe at least 3. And they have to go along with your disease process, though. It has to link. Okay, it has to connect. Next would be your interventions, which would be specific to nutritional therapy, patient teaching, family, patient caregiver teaching, support available within their local community, or support via like cancer.org, Caring Bridges, things like that, anything nationally. Okay. Next would be This would be your national or local resources right here. Then you would have your expected, at least 3 expected patient outcomes. And then you would have your format. So your paper has to be 3 to 5 pages, 2 scholarly resources. You have to have your paper in APA format. And then we talk about any word structure, any sentence structure, any incorrect words, and then the 80-20 rule. Okay. So this is the only paper that you have due in this class. The first assignment is filling in that table. Okay. So I would just ask that you start thinking about these things right now, write things down, start researching, think about, what you might want to discuss, so you're not just so caught off guard when you actually have to turn something in. And I would ask that you don't start an assignment on Sunday when it's due, that you write something every day of the week of the week that the paper's due. That's how I did. I would start on Monday and I would write a little bit and continue throughout the week. So when Sunday came, I was ready, done. I've done my proofreading, I've done my drafts, everything, and then you submit it. Okay. So there's only one link for this assignment, but that includes your instructions and your grading rubric. So then as we continue on, week 8, we just have one discussion question, but everything ends by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Now the participation is the same for this week, even though it's a shortened week, is where you are expected to answer your initial response to your question and then reply to at least 2 of your peers on 2 different days. So usually students get in on Monday and answer their initial discussion question, and then either get in on Tuesday or Wednesday and do those other 2 peer responses. If you're waiting just for one day to do them all, you will get docked the 5 points because you weren't active at least 2 days a week. Okay. So any questions thus far?
Nope.
Nope. Thank you.
So I would ask those in attendance, what is the main take home that we've talked about here? The main thing that you were just like, oh my gosh, about?
The paper.
The paper, sure.
The paper's a lot.
Okay. So that tells me we're into week 1 and you guys are already thinking, oh my gosh, this is a lot. So why not make it not a lot and start looking at it now so you're not so overwhelmed when you have to actually start doing things. Okay.
So if we need any, excuse me, if we need any help, like to see if we are on the right track, can we just email or paper, or what we can do?
So like on the right track, like with your disease process, or
Yes.
okay, yep, that's fine. I mean, I've had students text me and say, I'm thinking about doing it on AML. Would that be okay? And I'd be like, yes, that's perfect. What we do not do is we do not accept early papers to give you feedback on your APA or anything else, because
Okay.
if we did that for one student, we'd have to do that for every student, and we have a lot of students, and so
Of course.
we can't give you that feedback, but we definitely can give you feedback on, I'm thinking of doing this. Would it be okay to do my paper on this? Give us plenty of time to respond. I would just ask, if you're thinking about it now, send out a text or an email and say, what are your thoughts on this? Yep.
But the thing is, you can't mail us or email us your paper
No.
and say, am I on the right track? What you'd have to do is get in touch with your teacher and set up a time to talk on the phone, because we're not going to read your paper and then send you back and say, oh, you forgot section 2, or this is not done right. Because that would be a form of early grading, and we can't do that. So if you want to talk with your faculty and set up a time and you both look at the paper together and just kind of walk through it to see if you're on the right track, that we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hine. I'm just trying to think here. I know we're at 6:27. We have 3 minutes left. I'm willing to stay on for anyone who would like a one-on-one with the LIRN. It'll take probably 10 minutes is all, but I know we'll go over. Because I'd like to record this section of going over the LIRN, but for those of you who can't stay, just go ahead and get off the call. But I think I might dive in and do a quick preview on the LIRN. Any questions or concerns before we do that?
Nope.
So, once you go home and you start processing the whole course, your whole next weeks of requirements, if at any time, go ahead and write those questions down and contact your instructor. We're here to help you. We're here for your success. Let us help you. We within the lectures and within each assignment that's due, we give you a lot of resources to utilize. There's a lot of resources on your pages sections to help you as well. So please reach out to us and let us know if you're struggling. We're here for your success. Okay. So I'm going to dive into just looking over, finding an article within the LIRN. It'll take just 10 minutes or so. Won't take long at all. So I appreciate those of you who are staying around. So on your Pages tab, if you just click on your Pages tab and then click on this link, Library and Information Resource, you get here, and then click on the login, and your 5-digit code is found on the page. On the Pages tab, you put that in, you put submit, then you come up with this, and you're like, oh my goodness, right? So I always click on the subject view, and we are in nursing, so you would click on the health and medical. This brings you to ProQuest. Okay, so ProQuest is a great resource that provides students a citation in APA. That's why I utilize ProQuest. So ProQuest Central, click here, which won't take very long at all. And now you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to put in? So let's put in nutritional aspects with kidney disease. Okay? Because maybe you want to do kidney disease when you're talking about your Module 7 assignment. So let's click search. And now you come up with 27,552 results. What am I going to do with that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to click this limit over here, limit to full text. Give it a second to refresh. Then we're also going to click peer reviewed because those are scholarly. So that brings it down to 13,000. The other one I'm going to look under is source type, because what I want is scholarly journals. I don't need trade journals. I don't need abstracts. So click on scholarly journals. Give it time to refresh. This is called filtering. So you want to filter appropriately. So we're down to 13,393. The next thing I'm going to do is my publication date, because I have to be within that 5-year mark. So you're going to drag this little gray arrow, I'm not sure what it's called. You're going to drag it over. I'm just going to drag it over 2000 to 2009 and update. But I'm also going, usually I have to do it twice. Just one second, please. Sorry about that. My grandchild is upstairs. So 2000 to 2018 is too long. So I'm going to drag it over to where I get, let's say like 2014. Okay, update again, give it time to refresh. All right, so now we're down to 5,000 results, 5,507, because I've done the full text, I've done the peer reviewed, I've done the scholarly journals, and I've done within the 5-year mark. Okay, so then every resource that you're going to look at is scholarly and is within that time frame. And this little icon here is a graduation cap icon. That is a clue on how you know it's scholarly. Okay. So then if I look further, let me see here. Here's one, nutritional risk screening in patients with chronic kidney disease. That might be okay. Role of low protein diet. Here's one, nutritional management of chronic kidney disease. That looks pretty cut and dry. So let's click on that. So here's your full text. I'm going to hide my highlighting because that's just from the title. So here's your full article right here that you can read. Okay. You can also download it. And I tell students, I say, every time you find an article that you're going to use for a paper or for a discussion, I download it and keep it in a specific file. Because as you continue in your nursing student career, you might find that you're going to reuse articles. So you've already gone through the hard work of finding one for yourself. Download it, save it into a file, because you might want to pull that up and use it somewhere along the line. Okay. So the other reason I try to use ProQuest is because it cites it for me in APA format. So if you look over here under this cite, you can click on it, and here is your citation. So what you do is you copy, and then I'm just going to pull up my Word document like I was writing my paper, and you paste, and there's your resource. Okay. But when you paste it, you have to remember that you have to have this hanging indent. So you have to have a little bit of space. Let me see. Has to be doubles. There you go. Usually when you click on it, it'll do it. It's not really in my Word. It's not really doing. There we go. Okay. So that way it cites it for you. Don't reinvent the wheel. Utilize it. It didn't take us very long at all to find an article that we could use for something. So that's a quick overview of the LIRN. Like I said, I usually use ProQuest. There's other ones you can use. There's Nursing and Allied Health Collection. There's PubMed. Like I said, the only reason I use ProQuest is because it does my citation for me in APA formatting. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
With that, though, those ones confuse me on the insight citations.
Sure. So if we were to go back, let me see. Let me look at my Word again. I'm just going to bring this up. So this gives you the reference page citation. So now you have to support your paper with an in-text citation, right? So this is where you're going to utilize your APA manual, and you're going to say, well, I want to use, let me get rid of these red lines real quick so I can. So I want to use these two authors, right? How do I cite two authors? Well, you're going to go usually to page 177 in your APA manual, and it's going to guide you on how to cite an in-text citation. Okay. The other resource that I can tell you how to use would be, let me go here, the Purdue et al., which I have on my favorites. This is what I utilize if I don't have my manual ready or available to me. So here you go. You've got over here on the left-hand side, you've got general writing, research and citation, APA style. So I don't know how to in-text citation for my authors, right? I've got 2 authors, so what am I going to do? I'm going to look at a work by 2 authors. This is how it should look in your paper if you're starting at the beginning of a sentence. Now, if you're writing and you want to end your paragraph with the citation, it's called a parenthetical, which is at the end of your idea, and you would put it in parentheses and add the ampersand. It would look like this. Okay? Where would another resource be that you could utilize to help you figure out your in-text citations?
Well, one more question with that while you were on there. So you just write the first, the last name, and the year. You don't have to write what paragraph you got it from?
The paragraph or the page number comes in when you have it in quotes. So we try to limit your use of quotes because of that 80-20 rule. The only time I utilize quotes is if the author has said it better than absolutely I could. And so what we want you to do is we want you to read the article and then paraphrase it, put it into your own words. That way you don't have to have a paragraph number or a page number. But if you want to use a quote, which is fine, you just have to limit it to 20%. Then you would write your, let me see if I can find an example. I don't really have, because we try not to use it all that well. So let's say we're going to use this Wegener and Peter, okay? So here you would put your comma at the end of the year, and then P period, the page number, or para, which would be PARA period, and the paragraph number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. But where would be another area we could look for to kind of help you with APA within your course? Do you remember where we could find that?
The page tab?
Yep. And it would be down here under APA. Okay. The other area would be to go to your modules and look at your template and your APA. So let's just look at a sample paper, and you want to know how to cite authors. So let's pull this up, use this as an example, and I'm going to scroll through here. My first in-text citation is Norwood, 2009. See how they did that?
Yeah.
They've paraphrased it, but then they've put the author at the end. So your period goes after your citation.
So is this is just written in their words based off what they read?
Right. Yep. Because you're going to read a paragraph that says a lot of information. We want you to put it into your own words. Well, what does that mean to you? Well, the author stated whatever. You really want to try to paraphrase it instead of using quotes. Okay? Because you don't want the author to write your paper for you. You want to write your paper.
Right.
Okay?
I guess I'm just trying to understand that we're just referencing them because that's where we got the idea from.
Yeah, because you just didn't have it in the top of your head, did you? You had to read something, so give credit to the person who gave you that information. That's all you're doing with citations. Yep.
Okay.
So let's look at, here's 2 authors with the ampersand and the year. This is called parenthetical, so that's the end of the sentence. let's try to find one here to show you the difference. Here's one that's at the beginning. Do you see the difference here? The word "and" is spelt out when you start your sentence with your authors, and when you
Okay.
end the sentence with your authors, it's summarized with the ampersand.
I see. Okay.
There's a big difference there. And you can find this information on page 177 of your APA manual. If
Okay.
that's the only page you could ever want to use in your manual, I would tab it because you're going to use that a lot.
Okay.
Okay. Here's one with page number right here. So they really like this quote, okay, which is fine. You want to put it in quotes. Well, how am I going to cite it? Well, you're going to put it in parentheses. Here's your author, comma, date, comma, P period 44, parenthesis, period. Or para. Because if you, let's for say some article only doesn't have page numbers, or a resource doesn't have page numbers, which doesn't happen very often, you can utilize a paragraph number, and it would be PARA period.
Okay.
Okay. Conclusion, and you see your level 1 headings here? They're bolded with upper and lower cased. That's what I mean when I'm talking about level 1 headings. Whatever requirement or criteria you're going to be graded on within that grading rubric, you need to have a level 1 heading. Okay? Because that guides the person who's going to grade right to that area. So you can't say, well, I couldn't find it. I really don't see where you've talked about that. And you could say, well, I've talked about it right here because it's right under this header right here. Okay?
Okay.
Let's look at our reference list. Here's your reference list. Alphabetical order. Hanging indent, so the second line is indented. It's all double spaced. Okay? So make sure that you know how to format your title of a book versus a title of an article or a journal. Because the title of a book is italicized. You see that with the APA manual? Versus your article title is not italicized. The journal name is italicized. Okay?
Okay.
So it's very different. But your APA manual and then the OWL at Purdue will help guide you. This template will help guide you. Utilize your template. You can download it. So let's go into the template here so you know what I'm talking about. This template right here, a lot of students download it and you can type in it. You can change your header. You can put your name in here. You can put the title here. You can get rid of this first paragraph, type your own paragraph, get rid of this header, put your own header in, type underneath of it. A lot of students utilize that because it really helps with their reference page. Okay. And just know that every reference that you find within your lecture at the very end is an APA format. Okay.
Okay.
So don't reinvent the wheel. Try to use the resources that we give you at the end of each week's lecture to kind of help guide you with your discussion questions. Instead of going out there and spending, 30, 40 minutes trying to find an article to support your saying, if you can utilize the article that we've given you within your lecture, utilize that. Okay?
Okay.
Anything else I can help you with? Thanks for sticking around, Chantel.
Oh, yeah. I just really appreciate that. That's something I've had trouble with on the inset.
In-text citation. Utilize the template. Utilize the OWL at Purdue that we showed you. Utilize your APA book. If you've got, there's a difference if you've got, one author. If you've got one author versus 8 authors, here's work by 2 authors, 3 to 5. 6 or more, it changes formatting. You have to use the et al. Okay?
Okay.
So, and
Perfect.
it goes through everything here for you. The other thing I can help you with on this Owlet Purdue site is this APA sample paper right here. Hopefully this isn't, they've updated their website. So here is a sample paper. So once you're done, look at this and say, does my paper look like this? Does my running head look like this? Is this all in caps? Do I have a page number? Do I have my title? Do I have myself written down? Do I have my affiliation? Now they have an author's note. We don't need that when you're at your level. We don't need an author's note. Now, does my page 2 look like this? We don't need an abstract. Okay, so let's go to page 3, which would for you would be page 2. Make sure your title's here, which is brought down from your title page. Here you start talking. Oh, here is a 3 author right here. Does my citation, that when I have 3 authors that I have at the beginning of my sentence, does it look like this one? Okay. Here's a level 1 heading, which is upper and lowercase, and it's bolded and it's centered. Okay. Oh, here's a Cummings et al., which would mean there's a lot of authors there. So I'm just going to bring you down to the reference page so you can see Cummings et al. Because I want to show you this. How many authors do we have? 1, 2, 3 authors. Okay. That tells me that 3 authors, I have to do the et al. Because I've probably already stated the authors somewhere right here. I think I saw that, didn't I? Right here. You know how we wrote all 3 authors out right here?
Yeah.
It's telling me in subsequent citations, as in this one, once you've spelled it all out here, you put the et al. After that. You'd only have to do it one time, all 3 the one time.
Okay.
Now, having 1 author and 2 author, you cite all of them each time. But it changes when you've got 3 or more authors. Okay?
Okay.
Don't be overwhelmed by it. Look at this Owlet Purdue. It'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about right here. I've got authors right here. I'm going to bring this up. I've got 3 authors, 3 to 5 authors. So the first time you're going to cite it within your text. The next citation, you're going to use the first author and et al. It tells you that. Okay.
Well, I guess this is probably a stupid question, but for the one where we're filling in the table and we have to do references, those don't require inside text or citations then.
Well, in your interpretation area, this is where you will support your critical thinking with resources. So you're going to want to have at least 1 or 2 in-text citations as you go along. Because if you're worried about, let's say, low platelets with ginkgo, where did that information come from? Well, I read it from this resource, very specific. You're going to in-text cite that. And then you're going to also add it to your reference list at the end.
Okay.
Because the interpretive data is your research and your critical thinking. So I know that you just don't know these things off the top of your head. You had to have sought it out. A lot of the resources could be from your textbook, right?
Okay.
Utilize your textbook. It'll tell you in there difference with herbal medications when you've got certain lab work. You read a page, you're paraphrasing the information, you're going to cite the author, but then you're also going to reference it at the end of your title, at the end of your table.
Okay.
Yep. You won't have any citations within that assessment block, but the interpretation block you will.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. And Chantel, if it and let me see. Are you in my class? Let me look at all my students here.
Yeah, I am.
Let me see. Yep, you are in ZMP. So if at any time, you need a refresher on APA, a one-on-one, just feel free. Let's make an appointment and go over it until you are 100% sure of how to do it. Okay?
Oh, okay.
I will do that. Take the time to talk through a reference to make sure you know how to cite it appropriately and reference it appropriately. I will do that.
I appreciate that.
Just reach out, make a time with me, which my time is very flexible. I work with my students on their time schedule. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And please let me know if at any time you have any questions, any concerns, anything.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.